for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche And after 22 years, Raymond Mark!
The sickest NHL podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. He is Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy. Shortly, we will be joined by our guest, Kevin Stevens, two-time Stanley Cup champion, former NHLer, also had some international experience, and that is kind of the topic of the day, Pierre, as we digest and dissect the rosters that were announced yesterday for the upcoming Four Nations tournament in February, which you and I will be attending and broadcasting from outside of the arenas at undisclosed locations as of yet. We will, when we confirm them, we will disclose those locations, but we are looking forward to that. But Pierre, before we get to Kevin, let's get right into these rosters. A lot of people debating who should have been on it, who should be on it, and snubs and all that. Honestly, when I looked at both the Canadian roster and the USA roster, Pierre, there wasn't a single time where I looked at it and said, how the hell is that guy not on there? That's complete BS. I don't like that. How is he not? I'm fine with these rosters. And I just think that it's a reflection of, and I'm talking about USA and Canada, by the way. I just think that it's a reflection of how deep the rosters are. Like you could make with USA now, when we had Billy Guerin on, he said, look, we could make a B roster now. We've never had that for the United States. Canada, they could make a B, maybe and even a C. So it's just guys are going to get left out. And I don't look at it necessarily as a snub. I almost look at it as a compliment to the hockey in both countries that they have that depth.
Well, I think there are a few guys that would probably want to beat you up right now.
I know.
Because they think they should be on that roster.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just tell you that the decision makers were very fortunate that Drew Doughty's injured. Mm-hmm. Because that would have created mass mayhem.
Yep.
A very good defenseman would have been left off the roster. So that's one thing on the Canadian side. The other thing, Mark Scheifele. It's hard to think Mark Scheifele's not on there. And I would say two other guys. I would say Adam Lowry because of the games being played on small ice and his ability to lead by example, win faceoffs, and kill penalties. And the other guy is Tom Wilson. Mm-hmm. Forechecker, intimidating guy. I think this is going to be a tournament of intimidation, not just skill, but intimidation. Mm-hmm. So I actually think the Canadian roster is very good. I think they're the favorite going in. But if you were to ask me, are there players that maybe could have been on there that aren't on there realistically? I'd say they're probably four.
Okay. Who out of the two? You first mentioned two guys that you would have on there. Who are you replacing them with?
I would never disrespect anybody that's been named to a team.
Okay.
I've never done that. Like I've done so many Olympics and so many World Juniors, and I've been asked that question by so many people. Uh-huh. And once you're named to a team, to have somebody from the outside say you shouldn't be on it, that's disrespectful, and I would never do that.
Okay. So you're just saying, though, if you had it, those players you just named would have been on. But
I could see how there would have been very intense negotiation amongst the group that's picking the team. As I would hope that every one of those names I just said, whether it's Tommy Wilson, Mark Scheifele, Adam Lowry, or Drew Doughty would have been on. If he would have been healthy, he would have been on. He would have been on. So I would hope those other players would have been at least mentioned, and I have to think they were.
Of course, I do think they were as well. Sticking just with Canada, we'll get to USA in a second. You mentioned sort of you had a constant theme there, and you were talking about you think this is going to be a gritty tournament. This is going to be physical. This could have intimidation. You look at the roster right now. Who are the guys you think are bringing it in terms of those qualities?
Well, McKinnon is he's an overpowering physical force. People don't realize that. I think on defense, Parayko's a big guy. He's not overly physical, but he's a big guy. Travis Sanheim's a big guy. Devon Tage plays a very hardy game. Cale Makar plays a hardy game. Josh Morrissey plays a hardy game. But the guy up front that could cause a lot of mayhem is Brandon Hagel. Mm-hmm. Like, he's not a shrinking violet. He gets in there, and Sammy Bennett is a whole lot of nasty. Yep. So Canada's not exactly, on the perimeter, we're going to out-toe drag you kind of a team. There's some hardy souls in that team.
Yeah.
So, and he's not a big guy, but Travis Konechny wears his heart on his sleeve every single game.
What else I noticed about Canada, too, more so than USA, is that they have players from the same team. I don't know if that was on purpose to bring chemistry, familiarity, Your thoughts on that, Pierre?
Yeah, no, a good question, Jimmy. And I talked about this today on another show that I was doing. And I would say that sense of familiarity is huge. For instance, let's just look at the defense. Alex Pietrangelo plays with Shea Theodore in Vegas. They're teammates. They won the Stanley Cup together. He also played with Colton Parayko in St. Louis. He was a captain of the team when they won the Stanley Cup. Cale Makar and Devon Taves, they're partners in Colorado. So there's a sense of familiarity there. But here's the one that I think when you look at the Tampa connection, the coach is Don Cooper. Brandon Hagel's a Tampa Bay Lightning guy. Anthony Cirelli is a Tampa Bay Lightning guy. Braden Point is a Tampa Bay Lightning guy. There's a huge sense of familiarity. And probably the starting goalie, I'm not saying for sure, but probably the starting goalie is going to be Jordan Binnington. Jordan Binnington, the captain of the team that he played for in St. Louis, is Alex Pietrangelo. One of the defensemen that he plays behind, Colton Parayko. And if there's one area on the Canadian team that maybe isn't as solid as the other, is probably in goal.
Yes.
And so when you've got guys that are familiar with him, they know when to calm him down and how, because he's an emotional guy.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that, but he is. He is.
By the way, too, and look, he's done some things I haven't been a fan of, but like you said, he's an emotional guy. He brings it. Sometimes it goes the wrong way. I got to give him credit, though. I don't have the exact stats in front of me, Pierre, but I've been noticing him a lot more in terms of good things over the last 2 weeks, even before Jim Montgomery got there, but even more so now since Jim Montgomery's arrived as the head coach. But he has been turning up his game. And you wonder, is it coincidence that it was getting closer to when the team would be named, or is it just he found his game?
I think he found his game, and I think obviously he's a good goalie. I mean, there are times when he does go off the rails, but it doesn't matter. There are a lot of emotional guys out there. He's not the only one. One other thing, I think that Canada's really blessed. They have a player, Sidney Crosby, and I get it. Everybody knows who he is, but they don't really know what he does behind the scenes.
Yeah.
They don't know how revered he is amongst his peers. They don't know what kind of a true leader he is. This is an amazing testament. If Canada were to win, I do think they're the favorites going in. This is a huge thing for Sidney Crosby.
Yeah.
The influence he's going to have on the next group, whether it's McKinnon, McDavid, Braden Point, the influence he's going to have on all these guys is going to be off the charts.
Well, I look specifically, and I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to go there, is working with McDavid. I know McDavid made it to this Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final last year, put the team on his back and took him there last year, but he didn't win yet. But just in terms, I think he's still, you'd agree with me, he's becoming a good leader, but there's still more. He can become an even better leader. You can always get better, right? But I do think I'm really interested to see what he takes from this. Win or lose, just being with, like you said, being with Crosby every day, seeing that example set behind the scenes, on the ice, in the locker room, preparation. I don't know, even the way they sleep. Who knows? I don't know. But just following little things that Sidney Crosby does, I think is going to do wonders for Connor McDavid. And that's not to say that he's not already great. It's just going to make him so much better.
Well, it's a testament. The first time I ever saw Sid play, I think he was 14 or 15 at Shattuck, and you just knew he was special. And then as a 16-year-old, I watched him be the youngest Canadian never score a goal in a World Junior. The next year in 2005, the nuclear winter, no NHL, he played on a line with Corey Perry and Patrice Bergeron. I'll never forget, it was an off day, and the rink was closed except for some members of the media, Gordon Miller and I, and Wayne Gretzky and Kevin Lowe. Okay. And I'm just telling you, and the coaching staff. And I remember sitting next to Wayne and Kevin, and they were just evaluating Sid's work habits. Now, Sid hadn't been drafted yet, and they were marveling. And these are like, huge figures in the game.
Yeah.
And they're marveling at and this is when Sid's 17 years old.
Yeah.
He didn't turn 18 until August that year. And they were like, wow, this guy's really good. this guy's really, really good. Yeah. They were, and it wasn't so much the talent, it was the work habits.
Yeah.
And those have never gone away.
Do you ever notice, Pierre, obviously Brad Marchand, the captain of Boston Bruins now, early on in his career, we know he had to work his way up from a fourth liner to where he went eventually to the first line, became a Stanley Cup champion early. But the maturation of Brad Marchand happened, I would argue, from 2016 on to the leader he is now to wearing a C on his jersey. And who did he play with in the World Cup in 2016?
Well, Sid was one of his guys. Yeah, for sure, Sid. Here's the thing.
A conversation with him, where he said that was a really pivotal moment in my career, just being next to him all the time and learning from him up front, firsthand, not being his opponent, being his teammate.
Yeah, I can tell you another turning point for him because I was there. It was 2008, and
the Russia one.
Canada was playing Russia in an 8-game series, and I can tell you right now, he got sat out in the 8th game in Vancouver. He didn't play, and they told him why he wasn't playing. And I think that got his attention in a hurry. Now, the one guy on that team who ended up turning pro right away was Milan Lucic.
Yep.
And I can tell you right now that Canadian team was phenomenal, and that laid the groundwork for the World Junior that year, which was in Pardubice in the Czech Republic. And what I would tell you about that was how dominant Milan was. He and Sam Gagner were really dominant, but I think Brad knew that Lucic was a Bruin draft pick just like he was, and he knew. I better not mess around too much.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's interesting too, just to see the influences he's had on not just his teammates over the years, but opponents when they've gotten the chance to play with him. And we're going to see that again. Let's switch over to the USA side. Now, I would think you would agree with me, as you were just saying, maybe the one weak spot Canada has is the goaltending. I would argue the strongest spot right now that USA has is their goaltending, Pierre.
So you don't have to argue it. It's 100% true. You're spot on, my friend. Here's what's cool about this.
And where are they all from, by the way?
Yeah, think about this. Connor Hellebuck, UMass Lowell.
Yep.
Jake Ottinger, Boston University. Jeremy Swayman, University of Maine, all part of Hockey East.
Yeah.
That is, I don't think in my lifetime I can remember where 3 goalies in one organization or, one country all came from one league.
I know. It's amazing.
I find that unbelievable.
Just we'll tease it here. We tomorrow's on campus. We pre-recorded it today with Northeastern head coach Jerry Keefe, and that came up here. Remember, he brought it up. He said, "Can you believe the goaltending these days in the Hockey East?" And he's not just talking about those guys who are on USA for the 4 Nations. He's talking about the current goaltending and how it keeps getting better.
Look at his goal. His goalie's from Orleans, Ontario. Yep. Cam Whitehead, and he's drafted by Vegas. And I'm telling you right now, he's a real deal. And you can go around the whole Hockey East. Every team's got elite goaltending. It's crazy.
One of the godfathers of the Hockey East was a pretty good goalie himself, Mr. Joe Bertaglia.
Joey Bertaglia. Okay, so I'm going to just tell you one thing. When you're going to talk about godfathers and Hockey East, you're only talking about one guy, and you're going to say Lou Lamoriello.
Okay.
Or Louis J. Lamoriello is what you're actually going to. You're not – Joey was part of it, but you're going to – because I don't want him calling me up and saying, "What is your partner doing?" The trophy is named after me. So Louis J. Lamoriello is the godfather of hockey.
Am I going to be swimming with the fishes this weekend?
What's that?
Am I going to be swimming with the fishes this weekend?
No, you're not.
All right.
Because I care so much about you.
I know you're trying to save me. I appreciate it. Don Corleone here. Hey, listen, we got our guest right now, Kevin Stevens, joining us. We'll get back to those 4 Nations rosters, dissect USA a little bit later. But let's bring on a good friend of yours and mine. You had the pleasure of coaching him, Pierre, and I've had the pleasure of becoming a good friend of his over the years. Kevin Stevens joining us here on the Eye Test. Hey, Kev, how you doing?
What's going on, boys? Yeah, good to see you guys. It's
Hall of Famer. I'm so proud of you.
Pierre, how are you, buddy? Jeez,
I'm so proud of you, Kevin.
Thanks, buddy.
So
you're a big
congratulations.
Those 91, 92 teams are they were special, right, Pierre? Man,
they were, Kevin. They were, and you were a huge part of it. But you know what? We were just talking about Hockey East.
Yeah. And
the first time I ever saw Kevin Stevens play, he was at Boston College. And believe it or not, he was not a member of the Pittsburgh Penguins organization then. Yeah. He was actually a member of the LA Kings organization. And he got traded for a player named Anders Hawkinson.
Yeah, it's funny. That's funny.
Can you imagine how things change?
Yeah.
Because then he goes to Pittsburgh and he's playing with a guy from BU, Johnny Cullen. He's playing with a guy from Kamloops, Mark Recchi, and they call him the option line.
Yeah. Remember those days, yeah.
I do.
EJ, I saw EJ last night, Eddie Johnson, and we talked about that trade. You know, that was basically why I was standing on that podium last night, because EJ made the trade for Anders Hawkinson. I was at BC, and EJ was a Boston guy, so I was lucky enough to have him trade for me. And like you said, Pierre, my first center was Johnny Cullen. My second center was Ronnie Francis, and my third center was the big number 66. So how's those three centers? Pretty good.
Yeah, they're pretty good. But all I remember is this: we were getting ready for one of the playoff series, and Kevin knows I used to come in and do the prep for the playoff series, and I remember Bob Johnson goes, "Could you imagine?" And Kevin could probably do it better than me. Bob used to go like this. Could you imagine if I put that big number 25 with 66 and what could happen? And I'd be like, yeah, I could.
It was quite a ride. We had those early teams in the 90s, and Craig Patrick too was such a big part of it. Pierre, you talk about him a lot. He's amazing. I think he's the best GM there ever was. You know, I think he put together those teams 91, 92. I don't know if we traded Cully, who was one of my best friends, and I really was upsetting. But when we got Ronnie and Alfie back, then the second year we trade Rex, who's another one of my best friends, and we get Talk back with Kenny Reggett and Shell. So we don't win like Pierre said a lot of times when I listen to you guys. Craig was amazing. He was such a big part of it, and then with Bob and then Scotty coming in, and it just all worked out the way it was supposed to work out. You wonder why all these things work, but when you have great guys at the top and good coaches, assistant coaches, and we had good direction, it just kind of flowed. It just kind of ran right into each other, and it all starts from the top and it comes down, and then when you got 66 there, it's pretty good.
Hey, Jimmy, before I want to pump him a little more because he's a Hall of Famer now. And I just want everybody out there to know, like, Kevin's big. And back then, I think you were always, Kevin, you were always 225, I think, right? Because I remember
225, 230, right in that range.
You were always right around there because I used to see the weight chart all the time.
Oh, yeah. I used to hide when the weights came in sometimes, Murph. When I went out for the big steak the night before the weigh-ins.
But here, Jimmy, everybody needs to know this. And Kevin, I was running the practices. And I can tell you right now, we didn't have one guy on that team ever that worked harder in practice than Kevin. And he knows what I'm talking. We didn't have one guy that worked harder than him. Yeah. There were people that worked like him, but nobody worked harder than him.
Yeah, we had a great group though, too, Pierre. It was true because it's kind of like even when Koff came in, he kind of gave us some direction in practice and just the off the ice stuff, on the ice stuff, doing some sprints like working with the coaches afterwards on certain things that I think those are just as important as the regular practice, right? It's like working with the assistant coaches and work on, coming in and getting shots, shooting on the go, and just trying to, because the goalies were so good then, they're so good now. It's, if they're stationary and they're sitting there, they're going to save the puck. So we had all these different drills, crazy drills we did with Pierre and Barry Smith feeding us pucks all day, trying to figure out how to beat goalies. That was the biggest thing we tried to do.
Joey Mullen, another Boston college guy. Jimmy, I can say this, and Kevin knows. He would come and get me and say, I need to go on now. And he and Larry Murphy, I'd be passing pucks for them for an hour before practice.
Yeah, Joey is one of the guys that really didn't need. Joey was such a pure scorer, right? Yeah, he was one of those guys that, I needed 7 or 8 whacks at it. Joey needed 1. He gets in that slot. He got a small little guy playing in a big, tough league. My God, he was awesome, Joey, man.
Hey, Jimmy, one more up for Kevin because he was his teammate. You were there. Can you imagine how good Jaromir Jagr would have been as an 18-year-old in college hockey?
Oh, college hockey, man. You don't even imagine. You can't even imagine, you don't even think about that, right? Because you just, you don't even realize that he could have played college hockey. When he came in, it was like he's this big, strong, young-looking kid, and they dump him off from Czechoslovakia. He didn't speak much English. He was just one of those guys that he was, you could tell right off the bat here. He was playing. At the first year he played with Trotz, right? And then he started to climb the ladder a little bit. But he wins 2 cups in his first 2 years. He thinks it's easy, right? He thinks we're gonna keep stomping this thing. But you couldn't imagine. I don't even think about him trying to play college hockey.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's so
Kev,
good.
What was it like? Those 91, 92. You played the Bruins both years in the conference final. What was it like being a kid from Boston coming in as the opponent in the old Boston?
Yeah, I remember that was great. I think that was the best thing about always coming home to Boston was always on. We had a lot of Boston guys on our team,
Yes.
from our goalie Barrasso to Borky to Pete Taglianetti to Stanton. We had guys. We had 6 or 7 guys that were from Boston. So we always enjoyed going in there and trying to win because they were a great team. They had great players, but we were a confident team. Like when you're on teams like that, 91, 92, you don't care where you're going to play. We always thought we could win. That was like, it's a good feeling. I wasn't like that on all the teams I played on, believe me, but it was a good feeling when, when we lace our skates up, we think we could win every game. That's how we approached it. And it was really, it was quite a mix of players and just a well put team, and the character guys from Randy Gillen to Randy Hilliard, Barry Peterson the first years, just all the different guys, Jimmy Pack, all the guys. We always say, the big guys have to play well to win the Stanley Cup. But if you don't have role guys that are going to chip in once in a while and play well, there's no way you can win. It's impossible.
Pierre,
we had the great role guys too.
Pierre, if I'm not mistaken, I think you've told the story in the podcast. I know both of you had told it to me off air. But Kev, talk about that moment. I believe it was in 91. You guys go down 2-0 in the series. If I'm not mistaken, you gave a little speech to the team.
Yeah, that was out of aggravation, pretty much frustration. I remember we're in the garden. We're in the garden. We're up 5-3, and I don't know who was reffing, but they call a couple of they call a penalty. So now it's 5-on-4. They scored. Then they put us 5-on-3 and nearly scored again. So then I was 5-5 going into overtime, and Ruzicka scored the goal and went over the line by about 3 inches. And I was right behind him. And I saw that puck over the line. I remember as long as I can see it right now going over the line. I wanted to reach for it. I couldn't reach it, and it went over the line. The Garden went crazy. And then they're up 2-0. And basically the media, they knew that I was a little upset. So they came in and found me right away. And I said, I kind of came out and said, we're going to win the next 4 games. I didn't say it in a way that like, I just thought we were going to do it. I didn't say it and try to put any pride. I knew our guys. I knew we were going home, so I know we were going to win the game. I know we were going to win at home. I just knew we win our home games, and we got back for that game 5, and that was probably the best game I had in the playoffs. I had those 4 goals in game 5, and we got up in the first period there.
What was cool in that game? Kevin lit it up. Randy Gillen, I think, won 15 faceoffs in a row.
Yeah, that's right.
Gilly used to jump on the ice, take the draws, and sprint. So Scotty would scream at him to get off the ice as quick as he can. take the draw and sprint as hard as you can to get off the ice.
But, Kevin talked about how demonstrative he was in that situation. There was another guy that was too, and it was Joey Mullen. And I remember Joey just used to sit back there in the rock.
Joey was the coolest customer in the earth.
And then
nothing ever bothered Joey, right, Pierre? He was
except for when we were down 2-0.
He don't break a sweat. He just keeps going. Joey just keeps plugging away. He's
unbelievable.
He was great. We had a great bunch of guys. That was the best thing about it.
Hey, Kev, you know what I wanted to ask you? You were a big part of the physicality. And, whether it was Troy Loney or Phil Bork or Bobby, we had some guys that could bring the heat physically. But one of the more underrated guys with our group was Brian Trottier. Not just physically, but how he played. Can you tell everybody at home, because I know what he meant, but I was there. What did Brian mean to our group?
Yeah, Trotz was kind of the guy that came in. And the best thing about Trotz, Trotz was the first line, center for 15, 20 years on the island, being the guy, right? So he comes in knowing that you got Ronnie and you got Mario ahead of him, and he's going to be the third line center. And he came in and he played with Yags and Troy or Borky. He switched around a little bit, but it was mostly with Yammer, and it was kind of like that was such a huge. That was it was all a big guy, whatever. But getting Brian there was. Trotz, that was probably the best move that we've made out of anything. He was the guy that we could all kind of lean on, and he's another guy. He just has that personality that you just want to be around him, right? You just want to kind of follow him around the locker room and see what he's going to say. He's just one of those guys that he was there last night. I love him to death. He's just a great guy. He's one of those. He's a winner, and he just gets it right here. He's one of those guys that just gets the situation. He can go into. He can be the top guy, or he can go in and play the third line role and take the draws and be there and always say the right things and help the young guys like myself when I was there just to get through everything.
I'm so glad he was there for you, because I can tell you, I don't know, Kevin, if he ever told you, but he used to tell me a lot. we got to get this guy. He's going to be like Clark Gillies, but faster. He's going to be like Clarky, but faster. And he's telling me that all the time.
Yeah, he was
don't worry, he's getting there.
He was great. Josh was, it was just amazing. It was so we were so lucky to have him. I'm so lucky to be a friend of his. He's just when you're around him, he just makes you feel good. He's one of those guys. He makes everybody feel part of it, and it's just amazing. It's an amazing thing he has like that.
Yeah. Kev, how was this guy right between us as an assistant coach for those two?
Pierre's the same as he always is. Pierre's one of those guys. He's always there to help you. He's always he was always in the air. Like he listened, good, bad, indifferent. You want to complain. You want to bitch about someone. You want to anything. The coaches. He could always nix the situation. Like assistant coaches are always, they're those guys you can talk to too. You don't want to go to the head coach. You want to go to the assistant coach. And he was always a good ear to chew on. And, he had great ideas and always was there for you. Always at the rink, a rink rat, which was nice. I was a rink rat too. So I like to be at the rink, and Pierre was always at the rink. So it was, he was a big part of it. Like, the coach, it's just so I don't know if it's like that anymore. I don't know. I just the coaches were a big part of it. The coaches are a bigger part of it. Is, we felt comfortable saying anything to the coach. They felt comfortable saying anything to us. We felt comfortable saying anything to our teammates. It's just the way it was back then. It's a little different now. I think. I don't think you can really lean on guys like we used to lean on each other. In good, bad, or indifferent, we leaned on each other. We had to get a kick in the butt. You had to get a kick in the butt, right?
Yep.
There wasn't too much of that going on. We didn't have to. We were pretty good.
We controlled a lot, but we pushed each other. Our bench was pretty loud, Pierre. You know that. There was the defense yelling down at the defense to move the puck, and they're telling us to get back over the red line. Come into our own end once in a while, and we'll get you the puck.
Really good. So Kevin was part of it. You had Johnny Cullen, you had Mark Recchi, and you had Kevin Stevens.
Yeah.
And they weren't going every other shift. Their feet were on the boards of the bench going like this.
Yeah.
We'd
always try to bang Scotty's foot. We're ready to go. I give Scotty a little push in the foot and say, Mario's ready. That was a classic.
It was good. It was really
What was it like playing for Scotty, Kev? I mean, that must have been an experience, huh?
Yeah, Scott. I love Scotty. Scotty was, he's different. He's different. Everybody has a different personality, right? Every coach is different, and everybody has a different way. But Scotty had his own way, and he did it his way, and it was just the way it was. And he controlled the room. He told you he was up, ready to go. And I love playing with Scotty. I love Scotty now. I love talking hockey. I love when you guys talk to him. He's 90 or whatever, 80s, whatever he is. The guy's as more knowledgeable as anybody in the game of hockey. And he still is. He still knows the players. He's crazy, right?
Yep. He's 91 years old, Kev. He's 91
when I
years old.
see him, he's sharp as a tack here. It's unbelievable how sharp he is, right?
So, Jimmy, I'm going to take inside baseball. Kevin was in the room. And so this is a Scotty story. We're just playing off it. We're down 3-1 to the Washington Capitals. And their defense are beating us up the ice. They got Sylvain Cote. They got Calle Johansson. They got Kevin Hatcher. They got Al Iafrate. They're crushing us up the ice. And we were an aggressive forecheck team. So we changed our neutral zone. But before game 5, Scotty says to Mario, the coaches aren't going in the room today. You're running the meeting. I wasn't in there. Kevin was. Kevin was in the meeting. I'm telling you. That's what happened. Kev, take over.
That was interesting because Washington, they were pounding us. It was I think they beat us 8-1 or something, right?
Cicerelli had 4 goals in game 4.
Cicerelli went crazy on us, and they, we were in a trouble. We were in a deep trouble. We were in a heap of trouble. It was kind of like, what's going to happen next? And we just there was always one series, Pierre, that really gave us problems, right? Like Jersey, one year we were down 3-2. We had to go in there and win without Mario, Koff, Tommy,
Frankie Pietrangelo.
Frankie made a big save, right? Yep. Those were days. We always had a series that was really gave us some problems. And Washington was a hard team to play. That old Patrick division was unbelievable. Pierre, that Patrick division that day, my God, those are so much fun, those games. We had a lot of back-to-back games, and it's just Jersey, Rangers, Washington, the Islanders, Philly, going to the Spectrum. We didn't win in the Spectrum for 10 years. I remember getting to Pittsburgh, and they said, we haven't won here in 10 years. 38 games, I think we went without winning in Philly. Imagine that. Yeah, 38 games. That's a long time.
That's a lot of games.
You guys changed that, though.
Oh yeah,
We
when they got
did.
the first one, we went. But those games they were so much fun. Those games, that's what made hockey. That old Patrick division was something. That was a hell of a division.
Kev, so you just get inducted in the USA Hockey Hall of Fame. What did it feel like when you got that call to say you were going?
Yeah, it was great. You know, that was an awesome feeling to get it. It was, I was kind of surprised because it's been a long time since I laced them up. So sometimes you'll think you might time out of this thing. But yeah, it was a great night last night too. A lot of surprise, like my 1988, 12 of the guys showed up. Like Peter Lavalette showed up. He was, coach of the ring. He was on our team. Like Tony Granado, all the guys, Kevin, all the guys showed up. It was great. Lane McDonald, and then Ronnie Francis actually flew in, and all the guys. Mario was there. Obviously, he was there, and it was amazing the amount of people and support I got. I was overwhelmed when I saw the guys that came. Tommy Fitzgerald, all the guys from Jersey came. It was something special. I was very, very happy, and it was overwhelming because of the support I got. It was really nice.
That's great.
And it was well earned. It was very deserved. Very deserved.
I appreciate it, Pierre. Yeah, it was it was a great night. Very, very, they did a heck of a job in Pittsburgh. It was in Pittsburgh, so it was nice. They did the game the night before. It's funny. I went on the game in the second period. We scored that fourth goal. I said, wow, what a big goal for us. We're up 4-1. The time I get downstairs, it was 4-4. I said, this is going to carry us to the W. Before I got out of the elevator, it was 4-4. Oh God. But yeah, it was all good. It was a great couple of days. Very lucky, very fortunate to be in the situation I was in.
Kev, we had the pleasure of having Jim Hughes on yesterday on our podcast. I'm not sure if you saw it. We were talking about his kids, obviously, and then, talking about the comments that were made regarding Jack the other day on TV in New York, and just talking about having kids in general playing the game, and how you have to watch just what it's like for a parent. And you were in his shoes. What has it been like for you being a parent over the years?
A parent, it's hard being a hockey parent because you want the best. The only thing you want to see is a kid happy, right? You want him to be happy. You want him to, do the best you can do. You want him to play. You want him to play well and all. But it's out of, once you get them into the college thing, it's kind of in the pro. It's kind of out of our control, right? We can't. Right. We get them through the youth hockey stages. We get them up to there. Now they're in college, and all we can do is go there, sit in the stands, and support them, and hope they play well, and hope they do well. And now with all the social media and all the stuff going on, it's way too much. And I don't know how to use all that stuff. Thank God. I'm glad I don't know how to use it because it's just overwhelming. And there's people out there that are so cruel and so they don't understand that everybody's a human being, right? I criticize people, how guys play, whatever. We all talk about it and stuff like that, but there is still a human side to this whole thing, and I think that's the hardest thing, especially with the social media. The people that get on there and say the things, they never even play the sport. They didn't even play hockey.
And they won't say it in person, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and it's sad when the people do that, and the good people that say the right, do the right thing and say the right, usually they're, it's okay, because they come see you the next day, or you see them in the locker room the next time they write an article on you or something like that. That's okay, but it's you gotta, there's you can't go the way it goes now. It's insane how all this stuff.
There's a line that's being crossed. Way too much. And then that's just with the social media. That's just the way it is, right? That's how society these days. It's sad when you see things said when they're not true too. A lot of stuff that's not true gets thrown out there, Yeah, for sure. Pierre?
Well, I just want to thank Kevin and let him know how proud I am to have been part of the same team as you and carry that cup back to Tommy Brassel's backyard.
Those school buses. We jumped on these school buses in Pittsburgh at 4:30 in the morning. The things wouldn't even start up, and there was so many people around. But yeah, those are good days. You guys are doing too. I listen to you guys every day. You guys do a heck of a job.
Thanks, Kev.
Great following you guys, and you guys are the best podcast I've heard. So keep it going, guys. It's really
we appreciate it. And Kev, I want to thank you just as a friend for being a friend over the years. So it means a lot to me to see your success after everything you've been through. It's great to see what you're doing.
No, Murph, I appreciate it. You've always been a great guy.
Start going to some games. I don't see it enough rinks.
Yeah, I see. I've been at the Northeastern games a couple of times here, but I haven't been able. I try to sneak out in the after the second period because, the crowds are too big these days. You never get out of the parking lot. It's not like the old days. At least the crowds in these college games are crazy, right?
It's crazy.
How about the college hockey now, though, Kev? Huh?
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah, it's really good. The college hockey game it's fast. It's good. Every game. It don't matter if you got 2 wins or 3 wins. You can beat BC. You can beat anybody. If you don't show up, you're going to get beat. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's great stuff. But
thank you. I'll see you before Christmas. Thank you, Kevin.
All right, guys. Happy holidays, Murph. Good seeing you. Thanks, Pierre.
So proud of you, Kevin. Way to go.
Brother.
Keep it going, guys.
U.S. Hockey Hall of Famer Kevin Stevens, 2-time Stanley Cup champion as well. Join us here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. Pierre, we always say that hockey's got the best guys, a lot of good guys, but then there's the real good guys. And Kev, for those that don't know, has got probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest hearts I know of anybody in the hockey world. I'm not afraid to say that.
He was a massive part of those 2 cup wins. And if you look at all the Hall of Famers, and now he's in the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame, he's just another one. People don't realize, like, those teams were good, not just because they were athletic. They had really heart and soul people. Brian Trottier, Kevin Stevens, Troy Loney, Randy Gillen. Like, I can go down to Ronnie Francis. I mean, Joey Mullen. I can go down to Alfie, Shell, Grant Jennings. I can go down on the whole list of guys. And I don't want to leave anybody out, so I'm not going to do the whole team. But what I'm going to say is, I don't think we had one person that couldn't handle a challenge. Mm-hmm. And to me, like, I was there doing game plans and running practices and coaching a lot, like proactively coaching. It was a very intense environment. Right. But we didn't have anybody that melted.
Yeah.
Sometimes guys melt. You just saw Kevin. Kevin didn't melt.
Everything you just said too, like, I hope there's, young kids or people that have kids that play hockey, pass that along, because like we always say here, Pierre, you play as you practice, and practice is so important. I'm not saying that it's widespread, that it's not to some, but there's still, like, sometimes I don't think people get that enough. It really is sometimes more important than the games, in my opinion.
Yeah, our practices, I mean, I'm proud of them because I was part of them, but our practices were amazingly intense, and they were fast, and they weren't long, but they were fast, and they were hard. And I think a lot of our guys got better over the course of the year because of it. And they were already great athletes to begin with, but I'm so proud, especially Kevin. You said it so well, Jimmy. Kevin's an unbelievable human being.
He really is.
He's been through a lot.
He has.
Just you see how lucid and how intelligent and how passionate.
He looks great.
He looks fantastic.
Yep.
And so I know that there's so many people that have always really cared about him, and you can see why.
Yeah.
He's just a really special human. He really is.
Yeah. And we're not going to get into it, but Kevin went through a lot off the ice, and he turned his life around. But what I love more about it is he's turning other people's lives around right now.
I think that's well
said. I know you know that, but I don't know if enough people know that he's out there helping people with substance abuse, helping people who are less fortunate. He's out there doing a lot for society, and that's amazing to me.
He's a real good evaluator of talent. He's a really good evaluator of talent. The Penguins are lucky to have him.
Pierre,
they're going into a rebuild, and they need guys like him. I'm just telling you, they do.
I mean, obviously, I've never had the pleasure of watching a game with Scottie, but obviously, I love when we have him on here, when we have our conversations off air as well. But so I'm going on almost 25 years as a reporter, and in my 25 years as a reporter, the 3 people I love to watch games with most are you, Kevin Stevens, and Mark Recchi. Because man, do I learn so much. It's like it's unreal.
Thank you for including me with 2 of my favorites.
Yeah.
What was really good about that? Kevin never told me that, and I like to learn something every day.
Yep.
So what I learned today was how tight he was with Cully, which I knew, John Cullen, who he traded away.
Yep.
And I knew how tight he was with Mark, but how it affected him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And so we trade John Cullen, and he and the late Zardy Zalapsky are in that deal, and a kid named Jeff Parker, who played at Michigan State. And we got back Grant Jennings, Alfie Samuelson, and Ronnie Francis. And Kevin goes from playing with Johnny Cullen to playing with Ronnie Francis.
I know. It's unreal.
It's just kind of weird. And then the next year, I'll just never forget. the impresario, Mr. Bowman, says, we're going to put him up there with the big man and see how it goes. And it went pretty good.
And I love what he said, too, about the lessons he learns from Trotz, coming over.
Brian, how many times have I said to you?
Street cred. There you go.
Brian walked in there, and I'll never forget it. The line was, I'm getting one for the thumb, one more ring, that's 5. And he kept saying, and the guys would talk about it, like, what's he doing? I'm getting one for the thumb. and it was really one of those phrases that stood out. But I can't even begin to tell you how many long and really passionate hockey conversations I had, because Brian's family stayed on Long Island when he played in Pittsburgh. And so he and I'd be in the office always just breaking down tape or watching games. And Brian would always stay late. And he would come in and we would just talk and watch and talk and watch. He was amazing. You learned so much from him.
Yeah. And you're right with Kevin too, just the eye he has for the game too. I mean, it's something else. Hey, listen too, I want to tell our listeners, as we were saying, I want to remind them, we are going to be doing something. I just got a text, so that's why I'm saying it again, but I'm getting excited about it. We are going to be at the Four Nations when we have the location and times and all that set up. We'll let you know. But Pierre, I'm kind of liking this. I'm liking the eye test on the road theme we're starting up here. We've got more ideas. We're not going to talk.
No, I was just going to say there are a couple other ideas that Jimmy and I hatched that are exciting.
Yeah.
But that's the next big event, and it comes right after the Bean Pot, the first 2 Mondays of February. And Jimmy Jimmy, don't get mad at me. We're trying to hatch something and do that too, as you know.
Yep.
And I think we'll be able to figure that one out. But the Four Nations is a big deal, because it's a precursor to the Olympics in Italy, in Milan. And the Olympic, a lot of these guys are going to be on that team, but some of them aren't going to make it. And part of it's going to be because they didn't perform well enough in this event. And part of it's going to be because other guys just beat them out.
Yep.
Other guys just beat them out.
And, quickly, I'm glad you brought that up, because I like Don Sweeney's comments about Connor Bedard. I don't know if you saw them.
No, I didn't.
Look, just because he didn't make it here, we already are viewing him as part of that next roster internationally. We see him there. And so I thought that was, that was important for him to get out there, because the kid's a kid. He's going to take it tough. It is what it is. And to hear that must have helped his confidence right now in this moment.
That's a really good point by you and by Donnie. I wasn't aware he said that, but here's what I thought about it a lot today. And what I thought of, it reminded me of 2006. I was at the Canadian training camp in Kelowna, BC in the summer. There was a big golf event, and one of the top young players in the game wasn't there. And it was Sidney Crosby. Now, he had never played in the NHL.
Right.
But the Olympics were in 06, so this is the summer of 05, right after he got drafted. And you got to remember, he put on a virtuoso show at the World Junior that year. That was insane. It was unbelievable. So I'm thinking about that today, and I'm going, okay, everybody's mad Connor Bedard's not on there. Well, and I don't mean any disrespect to Connor Bedard, but until you put up Crosby stuff, don't tell me you're better than – and he doesn't, by the way.
No, he
doesn't.
I
don't want to hear that he's
There's
better.
There's fans saying it, though.
Yeah, but he's not better than Sid right now. Okay, he's just not.
No.
And so Sid didn't make the 06 team, and Bedard didn't make this team. This isn't an Olympic team, though. This is a four-nation event. The Russians aren't there. The Czechs aren't there. The Germans aren't there. So it's okay. We'll see how it plays out.
Yep.
You're going to be mad at me for this one on the American side. Clayton Keller's not on the American team.
That was the one guy I was going to bring up. We didn't get to my impressions of the American.
Why don't you do the Betway read?
Yeah, let's do that.
And then we can get a little flow going and get to, because I don't want to leave anybody hanging on the lurch. Like I know
let's do that, because you know what? They're still running that great deal over there, Pierre, at Betway. Bet the beauties with Betway and join the action right now. You can sign up with that QR code right next to that guy with that amazing eye test hockey jersey. We got to get those made for when we go to the Four Nations, Pierre. Give them some lucky fans, and myself, I hope. And if you go to Betway right now, let me tell you, they're running a deal. I keep telling you about it, but I mean, it's basically free money. So you bet up to $200. If your first bet loses, you get that back. I mean, that's something else. So go right there, scan the QR code, or go to the site. Remember, this is a limited time offer right now. You can only do it if you're a new member, and the offer is available, not in Ontario right now. That's the only province you can't do it in. You must be 18 plus, and please play responsibly. Let's go right to my sick pick of the day. What do we got?
It's time for Sick Picks. Brought to you by Betway.
All right, I got 2 picks right now, but separate picks. No more of these crazy parlays for Jimmy Murphy here. But I'm going to go to the Montreal game right now against the Nashville Predators in Montreal. Lane Hutson has basically been doing everything except score, Pierre. He still does not have his first NHL goal. Well, I think that changes tonight. Give me Lane Hutson to score an anytime goal at plus 800. You put down a C note, you come away with 800. If he puts it in, you put down $1, you still get a nice payoff. So Lane Hutson there. And then my other pick is going to be the team total in that same game. So I'm just staying with one game there. Over 2.5 for the Montreal Canadiens. You can get that at minus 140. So go over there, check it out. And if you want to feel lucky, I was saying this to Pierre before we came on. Last 4 games the Nashville's played, they've lost, and they've also lost 3-2 in every single game. You can bet the exact score, what you think it will be at the end of the game. 3-2 pays you right now plus 1,200. So if you think it's going to be another 3-2 loss, what the heck? Give it a try. Go over to Betway right now. All right, let's get to that Q&A, and we'll definitely be talking about the rosters here. Let's go. All right, Fishing, can you explain Jarvis, a second liner on the Canes, and is 5'10"?
Yeah, I can. He can really skate. He can play center. He can play wing. He can kill penalties. He can be on your power play. He can bring energy. I would just say last year he had 33 goals. I would say that he's a player that makes a difference and a lot of different facets of the game. And I think they're really comfortable with him being there because he's a malleable guy. That's why I think he's there.
Yeah. And one thing I'll say too, credit to the Canes, I like the development they had of him and the way he was able to be in some certain situations young. Pierre, I remember watching him in that 2022 series against the Bruins in the first round that went 7 games. Home team won every game. He was amazing, but he was learning. You could see him picking up that experience, and I think it's helped.
Well, you know, you talked about not having Connor Bedard on the team, and I'm sure that's what the questioner was probably alluding to. Well, Connor Bedard's really struggled defensively. This guy doesn't struggle. He's learned from the maestro. He's learned from, you know, obviously one of the better check-in centers in the history of the game in Rod Brindamore. But he also, I can tell you, Jeff Daniels is an assistant coach there. He was part of our Pittsburgh organization when Kevin and I were there. And we used to call him the mini Bob Gainey because he was such a good defensive winger. So, you know, Seth Jarvis has learned a lot in his 4 years, almost 4 years in the NHL. He really has. And defensively, he's not a liability.
Jordan Stahl, too, has probably helped a lot as well.
Jordan Martinook. I mean, there are a lot of guys there that really, Jack Drury, there are a lot of guys there that can help him with the D.
All right, next question. Alex Emnowski, I don't understand why people don't believe in Binnington. We were talking about him earlier. Like he's won a cup before. I like the fact he's feisty. Patrick Waugh, Tim Thomas, and Jonathan Quick could be as well. Alex, all great points. And I'm with you right now. I think he has been one of the better goalies. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I watch bouncing around the games. He's improved over the last month. And he wasn't the issue with them losing a lot. There are a lot of other things too. So
I tell a lot of people, if you don't think Jordan Binnington's any good, go watch the first period of Game 7 of the 2019 Stanley Cup final. Without him in goal, Boston doesn't just beat St. Louis in Game 7. They crushed them. They absolutely evaporate them.
Easy. It could have been 4-0 Bruins.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like he knows what it takes to win.
All right, next question. Sound the siren. Guys, I get amazed at certain guys that thrive in the face-off circle. We were talking about that with Jerry Keefe today. Anze Kopitar, totally underrated. Sid, Bergeron, even Jordan Stahl. What gives those guys an edge for face-offs? Pierre, I'll let you take most of this. I would imagine, though, and I don't know if you'll agree, just studying, watching video, reviewing it, practice. I
don't have to say more than that, but I'm going to say one thing so everybody can go look at it. From last night's game, LA playing at home against Dallas. And Anze Kopitar is going against Matt Duchene for a face-off. and you can see Duchesne's on his weak side, and Kopitar sees that right away. So this is a film study Jimmy's talking about. Watch what Kopitar does with his stick to bat Duchesne's stick away, pull the puck back, and eventually the puck ends up on the stick of Joel Edmondson, and he scores the winning goal. So I'm just telling you, like, these are the things that people study. And so face-off play is really important, and a big part of it's video study or tape study.
Yep. All right, next question. Alex Ivanowski, I was listening to TSN Overdrive, and I was surprised how critical they were of the job Yzerman has done. I am stunned by how so many I respect are giving up on Stevie Y. What else could he have done? Alex,
I don't know. Alex, please send it to Jimmy. I don't know what they said, but I'm going to say this. They've got prospects on top of prospects on top of prospects.
Yeah.
Now, have they maybe miscalculated in goal with established players? Maybe they have, maybe. I don't know that for sure. But I know they got big prospects coming in goal. And one of them is Trey Augustine, who plays at Michigan State. And he'll be the goalie for Team USA at the World Junior this year. And if the Americans are going to win that World Junior, he's going to have to be a big part of it. As last I checked, I think Michigan State's #1 in the country.
Yes, they are.
So, they got prospects. Don't you worry. Carter Mazur's a really good prospect. They just don't rush guys.
Yeah.
I get it. I totally get it.
I think two things when I look at Detroit right now is maybe they're not where everyone projected them to be at this point, Pierre, would be one, maybe they've missed a bit on some signings or acquisitions like at the pro level. It just hasn't mixed in as well. And also, hey, that city has not seen a playoff game since the Joe was still around.
Yeah, 9 years.
So there's a lot of impatience. It's like Montreal. It gets old after a while. I understand the fans' frustrations, but I think, I'm with Pierre. Stevie Y has done a good job building up that organization.
I think their amateur staff has done an outstanding job, led by Chris Draper. They've done a really good job with their amateur scouting. They've made some mistakes at the pro level. I would agree with you on that. They have. There's not one team in the league that hasn't done that.
All right, next question. Alex Ivanowski, the biggest complaint was that he doesn't have a young superstar to build around, like how Chicago has.
Dylan Larkin?
Yeah.
Dylan Larkin? What's
more
Raymond?
excited?
What's more excited? What's Simon Edvinson?
Yeah, there's guys coming there, Alex. I get what you're saying, but I respectfully disagree.
Yeah, no, and I'm not trying to pick a fight with anybody, but they got players. The young players are really good. All those players that were brought up there, you got to win the lottery to get those players. Last I checked, Detroit hasn't won the lottery.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with being a good GM, by the way. Hey, Jimmy, that has nothing to do with being a good GM.
Right, exactly.
I can tell you this right now. Craig Patrick could tell you, because he was a GM on record when they won the lottery versus Anaheim and versus Carolina. And I can tell you right now, I was one of the few people in the room when it happened. Pittsburgh wins the lottery. They pick first. They take Crosby. Anaheim finishes second in the lottery. They get Bobby Ryan. Number 3 was Carolina. They get Jack Johnson. So just think. Let's just reverse it. Let's say Anaheim wins the lottery.
Yeah.
Where's Pittsburgh? Might be in Kansas City.
Yeah, that's right, because they had all that stuff going on at that time.
So, Craig Patrick would tell you the same thing.
Yeah. It's not the GM's fault. I think they're doing a great job with wherever they select. They've been selecting well. So, all right, next question. Randy Workman, how much consideration should Anthony Stolarz have gotten for being on Team USA in goal? That's an interesting question. That's a guy nobody's talking about, but Randy, he's having a great season. I can see where you're coming from.
I think he probably did merit some consideration, probably got some, but you can't. Hellebuck is a Vezina Trophy winner. Ottinger's a guy that's been pretty proven, and Swayman last year in particular was outstanding. So Donnie Sweeney's on the Canadian side of things, so they're probably trying to twist it a little bit on Donnie.
Well, let me tell you too, Pierre. I was on. I go on do a weekly hit on the Big Jab up in Portland, Maine, and I did that today. And they were saying, are you surprised given Swayman's start to the season that he made it? And I said, no. I think like you just said, they're looking more at the body of work. But I also then theorized, Pierre, I want to know if I'm right on this. You'd know better. Do you think that's also a move because they see him as part of the future core of USA Hockey going through it, and they want him to experience that? Even if he doesn't play, they just want him around it.
I think you nailed it. I really do. I think it's a big part of it. And I don't know if he's going to be the number 2 or the number 3 guy. It's like people are talking about Sam Montembeault. I don't think Sam Montembeau's beating out Aiden Hill, and I don't think he's beating out Jordan Binnington. So when you're the third goalie in a short tournament like this, and I'll just case in point, I'll go to the 2010 Olympics in Vancouver. It's Roberto Luongo, it's Marty Brodeur, and it's a kid named Marc-Andre Fleury, who had been in the Stanley Cup final in 08 and 09.
Yep.
Okay. He's the third goalie. You know what he was doing the whole tournament? Chewing gum on the bench, cheering, and he was an amazing person on the bench, smiling all the time and taking a gazillion shots in practice. That's what happens.
Yeah, but it's good. It's good to be around. All right, next question. Steve Lash, afternoon. Wedgwood is expected to start in net tonight for Colorado. I'm not sure if you spoke about the trade with Nashville for Annunen. Sorry if I messed up the pronunciation. What are your thoughts? Because Scott isn't a long-term solution. I think he's just a backup guy to come in right now. You know,
they're trying to give their team some confidence, so they're just bringing in a new voice, a new body to come in. And no, I think that they're going to make some bigger moves as we get closer to the deadline.
What about that stat I brought up earlier to Shane and you before the show? So every start that Georgiev has made for Colorado this season, they have come out of the first period losing. So just think about that.
Yeah, that's tough.
And you look at the rest of the teams, we continue to say they need to address this.
They do.
Sooner rather than later. All right, next question. Gabriel Lamb, how good is James Higgins? From what I've seen, he is good.
Well, he was really good last night against University of Connecticut. He's getting points. Part of that is because most of the season he's played with Ryan Leonard. He's getting more assists than he is getting goals. And he's also playing with Gabe Perreault right now a lot. And that's an NHL player. So is he good? Yeah, he's really good. Is he as good as either Perreault or Leonard? I don't think he is. No, I don't think he is.
Not yet. But he is good. And by the way, credit to UConn for taking them to OT. That's good. They already beat them once.
Coach Kavanaugh beat them down in Stores, and then they came up here and they gave them all they could handle. And I'll tell you what, I think Mike, you know, he's a friend of the shows, but I think Mike has done just a fantastic job down there. He really has. He
has for sure. All right, next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, can you explain why the Islanders' penalty kill is so bad?
Well,
no idea. I mean, I guess just roster composition, I guess.
Well, I'm going to say one thing that's really hurt them. Adam Pelech has been hurt, and he is one of the better penalty killing defensemen in the league. So that makes a bit of a difference. By
the way, he's skated today, so he's getting a little closer.
That's good. You don't have Cal Clutterbuck around, one of the better penalty killers, you know, so that they've, you know, it's I don't want to get too mean, but part of it is just they've lost a lot of guys.
All right, next question. WPHL, why hasn't Guy Carbonneau been given another shot as a head coach in the NHL? He had a good win-loss record and had an amazing 07-08 season. I remember that. They beat the Bruins in 7, then lost to Carolina. I don't know. I don't have the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't know how much Guy wants to move around. He's in a really good situation where he lives in Montreal and he's down in Florida, and I know he likes to golf. I think he's got some stuff going in Texas too. So I don't know if he really wanted to pursue that. You'd have to ask him, but I know he does a good job on TV, and he does a good job on TV, and I think he's thriving. So I don't know if he ever wanted to go back or not.
All right, next question. Alex Evanowski, boy, does Buffalo need a win tonight?
Are you listening to Jimmy?
You guys listening to our pre-game here before we come on the air? I'm really pulling for them to turn it around. If you could change one thing about their roster, what would it be to get them going? That is a great question, Alex. There's a lot of things that I'd change. If I could nail one thing down, I'd like to see more of a pushback when things start to go south. Like, you know, the last game, obviously, they blow that lead, and you could see it just unraveling. And I don't see that pushback that they need to kind of keep it on the rails. That would be the one thing for me, Pierre.
I'm going to build off of what Jimmy just said. I remember the old Sabres players like Brad May and Rob Ray, you know, Charlie Huddy. They had some nasty guys, and they had an identity, and it wasn't fun to go into Buffalo. I don't think people are worried about going into Buffalo right now. Doesn't mean that doesn't change going forward, but that's just doesn't seem to be the makeup of their team. And usually you'd like to see the team take the makeup of the city. And I just don't know if – I think the coach is. I think Lindy Ruff is like that. He's like Buffalo. He's a tough, hard-nosed guy. I don't know if the team is. I think that's a bit of a problem.
Quickly, before we move on from Buffalo, were you surprised no Tage Thompson?
Yes and no. But here's what I would say. Like, is he playing ahead of Austin Matthews?
No.
Is he playing ahead of Jack Eichel?
No.
Is he playing ahead of Dylan Larkin?
No.
That's why.
Yeah. They're just deep. They're deep.
They're just deep. And so, like, people are saying, well, how could Vinny Trocheck be on the team? Vinny Trocheck is the 14th best center iceman in the league when it comes to taking faceoffs, not in terms of wins and losses, but on percentage.
Right.
You know, and so people say, well, what about Dylan Larkin? Dylan Larkin's 5th in the league in terms of faceoff winning percentage.
He doesn't get hurt last year, as we said. They make the playoffs.
You know, so like, this is a different kind of situation. So I kind of get it. He's not a guy that's going to be able to check his way out of trouble. He's got to get on the ice to score, and I just think they have too many guys ahead of him.
All right, next question. Postnet 130. What is wrong with Nashville tonight versus Habs? Jimmy, win for the Habs? Yeah, I do see the Habs winning tonight. I think the spiral continues.
I watched Nashville last night, and they were good for 40 minutes, and then Craig Berube got involved, and he decided to put Mitchell Marner and Austin Matthews together with Matthew Nyes. It was like, see you later, alligator. This game's over. Like, those three guys took the game over, but two of them in particular, Marner and Matthews. Mitchell Marner's playing as well as I've ever seen him play. And Austin Matthews, whatever they did with him over in Germany with that doctor, he's a totally different player.
Man.
More teams should be sending players to that doctor.
Exactly.
Something happened. He's a way different guy.
Oh, man, it's unreal. All right, next question. Alex Evanowski. Sounds like the Sabres might have too many of the same type of player, too many skilled forwards that play the same style. Maybe a trade or two would help for some jam up front. Totally agree, Alex.
Alex, we love when Alex reaches out, and that's why, because that's kind of what we were just talking about. Yeah, we agree. All
right, next question. We good? Oh, that's it. That's all we got, as Shane just told us. Good stuff. What a trip Kevin was.
Oh my gosh. Hard not to get emotional when you talk with Kev.
Yeah.
You know, because when you've seen what he's got, well, first of all, I was there for the highest of highs for Kev.
Yep.
And just so much respect for the way he committed himself as a pro.
Right.
It was never, I don't think it was ever acknowledged enough by any of us. And I'll point at me too, for saying just how diligent a worker he was, and how much time he spent at the rink.
Yeah.
Trust me, Jimmy, I used to sleep there a lot. And he was there often. He was there often. And like right at the beginning, you know, he wasn't like the fifth guy in. He was like the first or second guy in.
Yeah.
And he was always happy. Yeah. He never brought anybody down. He was always happy.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
I got to know him later. He's still going through some of the things he dealt with, but you know, you said he was a true pro on the ice. He's a true pro as a human being too. The way he took it upon himself, that he knew he had to do what he had to do, and now he's helping others do it. So thank you to Kevin Stevens for joining us. Congratulations again on being inducted into, the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame. Thanks to our producer, Shane. Thanks to you, the viewers and the listeners, for all your questions. We appreciate it. And again, reminder, tomorrow on Campus Friday, it's already been recorded, so you won't be able to ask us questions, and trust us, we miss it just like you. But we will have Northeastern head coach Jerry Keefe join us. It was a great conversation, Pierre, and I had with him. Ironically, some heavy emphasis on face-offs as we had here. So tune in for that. It's a good one. And enjoy the hockey, everybody. We will talk to you live again on Monday here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.